Respected President Mosiu, President Sediu, Honorable Lukas Mandl, Excellencies, Ambassadors, members of the European Parliament, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our European Leadership Conference on the theme of Western Balkan stability and European security. My name is Jacques Marion. I'm the President of the Universal Peace Federation for Europe and the Middle East, and I'll be the moderator for the first session on the topic of resilience in transition, building stable democracies in the Western Balkans. This conference is timely, as EU enlargement is today considered a strategic investment for the stability and security of Europe, and as we heard recently that Albania is expected to conclude accession talks by the end of 2027 and may become a member of the EU by 2030. So we keenly expect our panelists to enlighten us on this process. Because of obvious time constraints, I will only give a brief introduction to our distinguished speakers, so you may read in more detailed bio in the package that you have in front of you. And I want to remind our panelists, in the interest of time, to please kindly keep your presentations to 7 minutes maximum. I will now invite our first speaker for opening remarks, Honorable Lukas Mandl. He is the host of this conference, the co-lead member of the Western Balkans for the Western Balkans of the Democracy Support and Election Coordination Group at the European Parliament. He's a strong supporter of Western Balkans European integration, and we deeply appreciate, sir, your willingness to host this conference today. Thank you, and the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Thanks to all of you for joining. It's my privilege and my honor to host this high-level conference. Sorry for the delay of 5 minutes. I just came in from the American charge d'affaires and I didn't make it earlier, but my parliamentary office advised me, due to the time restraints, to ask Davor, Stier, my dear colleague and former Foreign Minister of Croatia, to speak first, since you're about to open the panel one, and we know that you have the next obligation. I had the obligation before, and this is the best thing I can do after this 5 minutes delay, to give you the floor immediately. And it's always worth listening to Davor Stier, and I will make some remarks as a host of this conference later on. Davor, if I may give you the floor.
Thank you, Lucas, very much for this invitation, and it's really a privilege to speak on such a distinguished panel on a topic that carries obviously significant weight for Europe's strategic future, that is building resilient and stable democracies in Southeast Europe. And coming from Croatia, let me just say that it is that journey towards EU membership being based on my own personal experience, that journey is never linear. It requires perseverance, it requires courage, and of course a deep belief that democratic change is not just necessary, but is also possible. And I would say that it's very much connected, that as much as you are working on all the EU-related reforms, you are building, you are developing your democracy, you are making your society more resilient. But particularly in today's geopolitical environment, resilience has become an essential condition also for democratic stability. It goes beyond institutional design. It's about the capacity of societies to adapt, to resist manipulation, and to maintain trust in public life even under pressure. Southeast Europe continues to face specific vulnerabilities in this sense. I mean, unresolved political tensions, external influence, disinformation campaigns, but also structural governance challenges. And these pressures do not simply threaten political stability, they directly affect citizens' confidence in the democratic process. Resilience, therefore, is not an abstract concept. It's about safeguarding the integrity of democratic institutions, ensuring the independence of the judiciary, protecting media from political or financial capture, and cultivating a political culture in which dialogue and compromise prevail over the issue. Most importantly, resilience is about people, about ensuring that citizens feel secure, informed, and included in their political community. When societies are resilient, democracy becomes durable, and when they are not, democratic institutions become fragile, regardless of how well they are designed on paper. Now, when we reflect on the future of the region, history offers us a useful reminder. The European Union has demonstrated that internal strengthening and external enlargement can advance together. We are about to discuss in our Foreign Affairs Committee the strategy for enlargement, making exactly that point. After 2004, the Union both reformed internally and welcomed new members, many of whom were undergoing profound political and economic transition of their own. That experience underscores a fundamental truth. The credibility of enlargement depends on conditionality, on merit-based progress. Conditionality in this sense, let me say, is not a hurdle. It's a guarantee that membership remains stable, sustainable, and beneficial both for the Union but also for the candidate country. Enlargement should not be, in this sense, a race for speed, although, of course, speed is important. But it must be a process of building trust, capacity, and resilience. Real transformation happens only when reforms are genuine, when the rule of law is strengthened, when judicial independence is ensured, when media freedom is protected, when public administration functions effectively and transparently. At the same time, the EU also carries responsibility. It must strengthen its own institutional capacities and maintain the budgetary mechanisms capable of integrating new members without weakening cohesion. And in this sense, especially when we are talking about the 6 countries in the Western Balkans, I think we have a great advantage to say the whole region will not be a problem for the European Union in terms of absorption capacity. Now, there is indeed space to make the enlargement process more dynamic without compromising the criteria. One realistic approach is the so-called gradual integration. That means enabling candidate countries to participate in specific EU policies and programs before, or I would say even before, full membership. Because gradual integration should not be a replacement for full membership, but should be a sort of a preparation for full membership. And this includes cooperation, I would say, in security, defense, migration and border management, participation in digital and research initiatives, involvements in regional energy and connectivity projects. And this approach really achieves 2 important goals. It delivers concrete benefits to the citizens early in the process, and it provides political momentum to reformers who need tangible proof of their effort matters. Today, Southeast Europe is not only a region preparing for accession, it's also increasingly recognized as an essential element of Europe's broader security landscape. Don't forget, all the countries in the region are surrounded by EU members. We could speak also about actually completing the EU integration rather than enlargement when we are talking about the Western Balkan region. The region must be both resilient internally and well integrated into wider European security structures. This includes fighting organized crime, protecting critical infrastructure, countering hybrid threats, and enhancing interoperability with EU partners. Now, let me finish, since I know that the time is limited, and I will also have to, I will be delighted to listen at least to some of the other panelists to make the connection between resilience, democracy, and EU enlargement. I think that is quite important to see that external security also depends on the quality of the democratic system. When a government is not treating their own citizens well, you can expect that sooner rather than later it will provoke also some crisis outside its borders. We saw it with Vladimir Putin, and there are so many other cases. So that's why it's so important that the enlargement process is understood as a transformative process to strengthen the democratic institutions that bring, at the end of the day, more security to the entire community of European nations that are together in this peace project called the European Union. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you very much, Davor, for this deep dive and also for this holistic approach to all the enlargement endeavor. The title of our today's conference is exactly Balkan Stability and European Security. We will catch up with time because I will only make one strong remark, and I will have the honor and privilege to hand over the floor to His Excellency Alfred Moisio, and then Jacques Marion, I very much thank for the excellent cooperation in organizing this, and we have had a very good cooperation over many years. I will hand over to him to moderate the first panel. The point I want to make, kind of complementary to what my colleague Davor Stier has stated, is what I am searching for, what I seek for is leadership. If you look back in European history, when it came to the fall of the Iron Curtain, it was leadership by people like Václav Havel or Lech Wałęsa. When it came to the German reunification, it was leadership by personalities like Helmut Kohl or François Mitterrand. It were states responsible actors who have taken decisions which might not have been easy to take, but they have taken decisions without looking too much into bureaucratic processes or into what could hinder the positive process, rather looking into the question how history can be shaped positively for generations to come. Generations of Europeans, meaning the Western Europeans of that time, as well as the Eastern Europeans, as well as Southeast and all parts of Europe, and making also Europe capable of contributing to the world better. This kind of leadership I'm missing. Even in this room, 6 years ago, I was part of negotiating the new methodology for enlargement on the request, let's say politically speaking, on the request of the President of Western Europe, a pretty large country there. And this 6 years ago. And we made a new methodology. You know what happened after that? Still not a progress which we could mention too positively. I'm very well aware of the problems Davor Stier has mentioned, and they should be mentioned, especially when governments treat its own people badly. This must not happen within the EU, this must not happen outside the EU in Europe, it must not happen at all, that we can't take the country on board with such circumstances, but we can contribute via the process, as Davor Stier has said, to a positive development, but we also need the leadership decisions to do it. Or as the late Ernhard Husek, already passed away, statesman of my home country, Austria, stated in his very last book, the 6 Western Balkan countries should be taken on board jointly, all at once. This was his leadership approach, his visionary approach. Even the book was named Balkans to Europe immediately. That's the title of the book in English language, the book originally is in German language. So, of course, we have to discuss, we have to negotiate, we have to figure out how to solve given problems, but not only within these 6 countries, especially one of them, I have to say today, but also within Europe, when it comes to the structures of the European Union to make Europe capable to get involved in its own destiny. And the destiny must be enlargement, the destiny must be a Europe with more strength to the outside and more freedom to the inside, by the way. And that means not only enlargement to the Western Balkans, but also to the Eastern Partnership, and also to achieve one day a European Union consisting of all European states, and this visionary approach must not get abandoned. I do not want to miss, before Jacques Marion will introduce all the panelists for the first panel, to mention my fellow Austrian, and I can say a mentor, Ottmar Karas, who just joined the room. He was the longest standing member of the European Parliament from Austria, from my home country. I have learned a lot from him. I'm still learning a lot from him. He also always had the Western Balkans high on his agenda, and it's an honor for me that you are not only in Brussels today, but you just took the time to join this conference. Ottmar, thanks again to Jacques Marion for organizing this together with us and for the good cooperation. And now it's my privilege and my honor, Your Excellency President Alfred Moisio, to hand over the floor to you. Sorry for that. We met last time more than a year ago in Pristina, so I'm really sorry for not recognizing everybody directly. But I hand over to Alfred Moisio, and I'm really grateful. Fare mi dere čum, Mirita. Thank you very much for joining, and the floor is yours.
In my mother tongue.
Honorable Lukas Mandl, dear President Stier, dear Dr. Balkan and Mr. Marion, Your Excellencies, Ambassadors, Honorable Members of the European Parliament, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I'd like to thank you for giving us the opportunity to present before you our thoughts on an issue that is not only of concern to us. Allow me to remind you that both world wars began in the Balkans. I cannot explain why, but this is a fact that cannot be ignored or denied. Let me go straight to the point. The war in Kosovo ended in 1999, 26 years ago. Yet the situation remains the same since 2007, when the US President Bush, during his visit to Albania, to Tirana, expressed his firm support for Kosovo's independence and reaffirmed his unwavering position on the Ahtisaari plan, even after the declaration of independence and many recognitions Kosovo received. To this day, Kosovo has been recognized by about 120 out of 193 United Nations member states. Despite Serbia's significant efforts to hold recognitions and encourage derecognition by several African countries. However, it is truly paradoxical that among the non-recognizing states, 5 are EU member countries. This is surprising and contradicts the EU stated efforts to normalize relations between Kosovo and Serbia. I do not understand, and I'm not able to comprehend how can mutual understanding be reached between two states that have had historically difficult relations when EU leaders themselves have not been able or willing to convince member states to recognize Kosovo. Certainly, countries that have not recognized Kosovo present their own domestic reasons, but these reasons seriously harm the situation in a region that is extremely sensitive to EU. The situation becomes even more incomprehensible when the EU appoints 2 of its important representatives and experienced diplomats, yet coming from countries that themselves do not recognize Kosovo. To facilitate dialogue between Serbia and Kosovo, regardless of the fact that in this context they were acting under different mandate. Nevertheless, it must be said that it is not easy to carry 2 opposing solutions to the same problem. Now the situation has changed, and we hope that there will be more serious efforts to address and resolve it. I do not consider it appropriate to mention here the injustices historically inflicted upon our nation by Western diplomacy, starting from the Congress of Berlin in 1878, the London Conference in 1913, and the decision of the Paris Peace Conference in 1919, and others. But I'd like to point out that if we truly want lasting peace in the Balkans, we must learn from the past and put things right. It is essential, absolutely essential, that relations between Kosovo and Serbia are normalized once and for all. We are not going to delve into historical events, as that serves no purpose, but to achieve lasting peace in the Balkans and to prevent it from remaining a powder keg, as Churchill said, we must understand the situation properly and make the right decisions. I insist and speak with the confidence of someone who has lived through the most of Albanians' history since the First World War and comes from a family with individuals who played an active role in defending Albanian territories. My father served as an officer in the Albanian army who participated in the battles against the Serbian invasion in the Martanesh chapter in 1920. All this should be mentioned and be said, because and as part of the extensive work carried out by the Universal Peace Federation in our region, we have organized several meetings, conferences, and seminars aimed at easing tensions and creating a more peaceful environment. This was done also in coordination with the Podgorica Club and with the participation of personalities from Serbia. Certainly there have been achievements, but not at the necessary level. That's why, for this reason, we are here today before you to raise this issue clearly and prevent any potential dangers. Our goal is to raise the appropriate warning so that we are properly understood, and we invite the EU to intervene before it's too late to resolve this matter. Unfortunately, Serbia has not abandoned its claims over Kosovo, a territory inhabited 95% by Albanians, which through a popular war and with the assistance of Europe and the United States achieved its independence in 2008. Serbia continues, unfortunately, to arm itself with sophisticated modern weaponry from Russia and China. The question arises, why? The answer is clear. So it may eventually take action against Kosovo. Of course, there is K4 is there, but that does not mean that there cannot be provocations that could escalate the situation. That's why we are here to say that the potential danger must be acknowledged and assessed. We follow the situation carefully and continuously. The official Belgrade not only does everything to keep the situation tense through media and propaganda, but also directly interferes in the lives and political activities of the Serbs living in Kosovo. We do understand why Europe behaves very cautiously with Serbia's current leadership, but I must say, with full responsibility, based on my experience, of course, that they cannot detach themselves from Russia, even though if they truly wish to do so. You should know that especially among the rural population, historically, there are strong support for Matushka Russia, Mother Russia. This is not a hypothesis, but a bitter reality. Over time, Serbia has become accustomed to sitting into two chairs. While maintaining loyalty to Russia, it also tries to present itself as loyal to the West. And looks like by doing so it has succeeded. But we believe that the situation should be evaluated properly and with urgency. Thank you very much for your understanding. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you very much for your speech. Your presence here really testifies to your whole life dedication. We know how much you're dedicated to public life and to bridging divide in your region of the Balkan. I would like now to start our next session with our next speaker will be again a historical statesman for the Balkan, His Excellency Fatmir Sejdiu, the former president of Kosovo. As one of the founders of the Democratic League of Kosovo, and two-time member of the presidency of Kosovo's National Assembly, Fatmir Sejdiu served as president of Kosovo between 2006 and 2010. And it's an honor to have you with us, Mr. President. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jacques.
Thank you very much for this great opportunity that we have today to be present with His Excellency President Moisiu and then other respected panelists of this. Special thanks for you and for Honorable Lukas Mandl, who follows closely the developments in the region and gives him great support by trying to find channels of cooperation. And I would like to thank also ambassadors for peace and other personalities present here. The historical developments of nations are diverse. Each nation has its own history of crisis and glory. Along these journeys, many nations and wise leaders among them have shown their resilience in overcoming extremely difficult challenges that at times threaten their very existence. My people, one of the oldest in southeastern Europe, has experienced such crises. The war of the final years of the past century was one of them. I want to emphasize that at the outset, that in Kosovo during the 90s, we organized an active, deeply peaceful movement to oppose Serbia's occupation. In the years 98-99, Serbian military and police forces killed more than 12,000 Albanians and around 1,600 people are still considered missing. In 1999, the Milošević regime expelled through force and intimidation more than half of Kosovo population from their homes and properties, an act unheard of in contemporary human history. Yet, even in those difficult times, we had the opportunity to knock on the doors of our friends beyond Kosovo, and those doors opened with wisdom, humanity, and understanding. The end of this cycle of violence, thanks to the intervention, solidarity, and humanitarian support of the broad international community, put a stop to the suffering we were enduring and opened a new chapter in our development. We have been and remain fully aware that our path would not be one of hatred, contempt, or apartheid, evils which we ourselves had endured. All of this was achieved through a wise policy grounded in humanism and guided by the motto, with patience and without hatred. Ladies and gentlemen, the international community led by the United States and the European Union, along with UNMIC and KFOR, provided extraordinary support in building our institutions and guaranteeing security. The decision of the International Court of Justice validated our right to independence, and the Declaration of Independence on February 17, 2008 brought new responsibilities for the citizens of Kosovo and for the region of its relations with Kosovo. Kosovo, now recognized by more than 120 countries, enjoys sincere international support to become an equal and active member of the global democratic community. Today we see a transformed Kosovo, a state that acts as an equal partner in the region, participates in numerous initiatives and contributes with its modest yet sincere experience to global challenges. Kosovo interacts diplomatically on equal footing with other democratic states that help open pathways of development for peoples and countries in need of such support. However, Serbia has not changed its provocative and confrontational approach. It continues to maintain high tensions, not only to fuel instability, but also to create false perceptions that Kosovo is not a safe place for international investment. The case of Banjska, where organized terrorist groups supported by Serbian state structures killed the Kosovo police officer and attempted to destabilize the north, which proves that the old policy towards Kosovo continues unchanged. Distinguished participants, it must be acknowledged that in our state-building journey, we have also faced internal difficulties. At times we have shown fragile political tolerance, closed our eyes to negative phenomena, allowed the departure of youth and experts, and demonstrated weaknesses in the fight against corruption. The absence of functional governance for the past year and the inability to share responsibilities through an engagement among political parties are undermining Kosovo's social, economic and diplomatic development. As a witness and participant in our state-building processes, both internal and external, I wish to highlight three essential reflections related not only to Kosovo's interactive politics, but also to that of the entire Balkan region. I believe these elements are important regardless of era or circumstance. First, proactive policy. Kosovo and the countries of the region cannot be satisfied with self-containment. A more proactive engagement is still lacking, shaped by clear vision, political imagination, and objective judgment. With foresight, dedication, and political maturity, it becomes possible to navigate the turbulent waters of an increasingly unsettled international landscape. With such a vision, Kosovo and the entire region can secure a more active and meaningful presence on the world stage. Policies that reflect human aspirations and aim towards a shared, stable and prosperous future. 2. Building alliances. Proactive policy and vision are incomplete without alliances with the West and with free societies around the world. These elements reinforce one another. As a small state, Kosovo knows well the importance of alliances. Our Western partners, the US and the European Union, who stood by us in our darkest hours, remain essential both for Kosovo and for the region. It is crucial that the peoples of the Balkans preserve and cultivate these alliances with care, maturity and vision. Of primary importance remains progress towards Euro-Atlantic integration. The examples of Albania, Montenegro and North Macedonia are significant steps forward. Kosovo is deeply committed to meeting the criteria required for these processes. Third, harmonizing regional policies with a changing global order. In recent years, it has become clear that the international order, the same order that enabled Kosovo's independence and achievement, is changing. Therefore, proactive politics and alliances with the West are essential to adapt the shifts in the global landscape. In conclusion, I wish to emphasize that I believe we must be clearly understood. Kosovo and every state in the region face two necessary dialogues, the dialogue with themselves and the dialogue with the West, with the democratic world. Every objective judgment that must guide us is born from these two honest, clear and interactive conversations. This is what the peoples of the Balkan hope and dream for, even when at times politics loses its way and its willingness to serve in their freedom and their will. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you very much for your sharp analysis, but also your vision for your country and the two dialogues that Kosovo is confronted with. Thank you very much for being here with us. And now I would like to have the pleasure to introduce Her Excellency Albana Dautlari, Ambassador of the Republic of Albania to the Kingdom of Belgium. Ambassador Dautlari is a diplomat with great experience in multilateral diplomacy, a former ambassador to Sweden. She represented Albania at the United Nations, the Council of Europe and NATO, and held senior positions at the Ministry for Europe and Foreign Affairs. It's a privilege to have you with us, Your Excellency. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Honorable President, Honorable Lukas Mandl, dear guests, dear colleagues, I would like to thank the Universal Peace Federation and T. Lukas Mandl for organizing this timely discussion and for inviting me. It is an honor to address this gathering at a moment when the stability of our region and resilience of our democracies carry profound implications for the security of Europe as a whole. Our panel theme, Resilience in Transition, speaks directly to the experience of the Western Balkans, a region that has traveled a long way from conflict to cooperation, but which still faces challenges that test the strength of our democratic systems. Today, as we heard a lot about the region as a whole, I'll speak more specifically about Albania's path, its reforms, and its unwavering commitment to regional stability and European integration. Our region, the Western Balkans, is a region under pressure, yet moving forward. Across the region, our democracies continue to evolve, often under difficult conditions. The conflict in Ukraine has increased this pressure by creating new geopolitical dynamics and exposing fragilities in our energy security, our information space, and our institutional resilience. But despite these challenges, most of the Western Balkans have shown remarkable determination to uphold peace, strengthen governance, and move closer to the European Union. Allow me to highlight Albania's experience, and an experience that it goes by deep transformation, bold reforms, and clear strategic orientation. When it comes to rule of law and the justice reform, Albania has undertaken one of the most comprehensive justice reforms in Europe. When it comes to good governance and public administration, Albania continues to modernize public administration, digitalize services, and strengthen transparency. We are investing in e-governance to reduce corruption risks and make institutions more responsive. Media freedom and civic participation. It has been a priority and it will remain so. Albania has been working closely with European partners to improve media legislation, support independent journalism, and protect journalists' rights. Also, Albania has been working and advancing measures to improve the investment climate, diversify the economy, and promote sustainable growth from tourism and energy to agriculture and digital transformation. Important it is also to highlight Albania's contribution to regional stability. Albania has acted as a factor of stability in the Western Balkans. We believe that dialogue, cooperation, and mutual respect are essential for peace and development in our region. Albania is fully committed to the Berlin process and other initiatives, and we think this helps in the gradual integration, as mentioned at the beginning. We are a reliable security partner. As a NATO member, Albania has contributed to regional and Euro-Atlantic security and fully aligns with EU foreign and security policy. Albania supports dialogue as the only path to resolving disputes and is committed to fostering a climate of cooperation and reconciliation. When it comes to the European Union, for us, the European Union is the anchor of resilience. For Albania and for the Western Balkans, EU integration remains the most powerful instrument for building stable democracies. The EU's engagement is essential not only for the enlargement, but for securing a peaceful and resilient continent. This week, Albania opened the last cluster of negotiations, and we expect by 2027 to close all of them and become a member by 2030, if not before. Yesterday, I was attending a EU enlargement forum. It was the first time that it was organized by European Commission, and many of the speakers, they mentioned Montenegro and Albania as front runners, and we really hope that it will be the case because it will give this perspective to all the region. Building resilience, is what the region needs. But to strengthen democratic resilience, the Western Balkans must continue to work with the reforms. And Albania is working on deepening rule of law reforms, strengthening independent media, accelerate economic modernization, enhance energy and digital connectivity, confront hybrid threats, invest in youth and education. And in concluding, I think the Western Balkans are now at an important juncture. Albania firmly believes that the future of our region lies in democratic resilience, regional cooperation, and full integration into the European family. By working together, governments, civil society, regional partners, and EU institutions, we can secure a peaceful and prosperous future for the entire European continent. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Ambassador. Thank you for representing your country, particularly at this important time, and you work for many years for this. We may have time maybe for a few questions afterwards, so I want to go on first with our next speaker. And final speaker in this session will be His Honorable Jovan Jovanovic, a diplomat and political leader from Serbia. Honorable Jovanovic was a member of Parliament of Serbia between 2016 and 20 and served as ambassador of Serbia to the Republic of Indonesia and to 7 Southeast Asian countries and ASEAN. And today he is an international consultant for the OSCE Office for Democratic Institutions and Human Rights. Honorable Jovanovic, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, and I would like to thank for the invitation for organizing this conference. And it's, as you mentioned, a very timely conference. I would say a very critical, important moment for the Western Balkans, particularly for Serbia, which is facing a very difficult decision what to do, related particularly to the Serbian oil industry, which is owned by the Russians. So there is a fear, especially among pro-European, pro-Western forces in Serbia, that the government, the regime in Serbia could take a wrong decision and that we could lose the last train towards the European Union for a long time. So it's a critical moment for Serbia. And it's really hard to talk after so many distinguished speakers, and I would like to single out speeches from Mr. Stier, who unfortunately had to leave, and also Mr. Mandl. He mentioned very, very important issue of lack of leadership, which we had at the end of the 80s in Europe. So, and I would like to bring my more like personal perspective, both as somebody who has practical experience as a diplomat, as a politician. I was also a president of one of the parliamentary opposition groups in the parliament for a year and a half, and also as a researcher. And I would like to point out, to draw your attention to 2 important reports for the democratic resilience. One is the report I was the leading author of, a recently published report by ODIHR, OSCE report on parliamentary oversight of the executive in the OSCE region in 56 participating states. And what is important is that in many countries, even deliberately, this control role of the parliament is systematically weakened. And this is a crucial role of the parliament. So this role is important for upholding democracy, for this democratic resilience, for keeping the separation of power. So I would recommend this report especially to all parliamentarians. And the other one is more about the authoritarian playbook, or one of the versions of the authoritarian playbook. 3 years ago, I authored an analysis of President Vucic's system of government. So it contains all these items of authoritarian playbook, adjusted. And we can see that now, at this moment, in the heart of Belgrade, between the two most important institutions, between the parliament and the office of the president, we have a paramilitary camp, which is embodiment of all these violations of the democratic principles in one place. President Vucic is calling it like a small village of courageous goals, like in Asterix, but in matter of fact, this is occupied territory in the middle of Belgrade. So you can see all these breaches of the polarization, high polarization, breaches of the rule of law, because it's for more than 8 months you have this public event in the heart of Belgrade, where you have criminals, where you have hooligans, where you have people who are blackmailed to be there. They are all paid there, or to receive their social assistance. In order to receive their social assistance, they spend some time at that camp, which is named Chatsiland. Chatsi, it's somebody illiterately wrote instead of Jacques for pupil, Chatsi. So it's a Chatsiland. So even last week we have installed like a checkpoint. I call it checkpoint Chatsiland. Checkpoint Chatsi used to be in Berlin. So even I experienced a few weeks ago the situation when I tried to cross before the checkpoint. It was thought to cross this camp, and I was surrounded by 10, 15 people in black, and they took my phone and they raised my photo. So fortunately, at this moment, police act very professionally, and there was nothing happening more seriously than that. So we have this embodiment of everything what is wrong, and why we had this extreme results of this authoritarian and undemocratic tendencies. There are many reasons. One is the tendencies and the policies of the regime. On the other hand, also Mr. Stier mentioned the importance of the civil society. We have weak civil society, we have weak political opposition. Of course, the regime has been working on them, on demonizing opposition, etc., etc. You have crippled media, especially independent media. So you do not have this effective democracy defense mechanism on the one hand. On the other hand, which is frequently mentioned, and I think overestimated, and unjustly, but still there is some truth to that, it's foreign policy factor. And we are now in the European Parliament, which has been very vocal about the situation in Serbia in the last year. But for many years, Western powers and EU especially, they tolerated many of the violation of democratic principles, which are core values of the European. It has been changing lately, mostly due to geopolitical and economic reasons, because some countries, including Austria, Italy, Germany, France, they have their economic interests. But we are facing the situation which I would use this paraphrase of the Churchill quote about the appeasement and when the Munich Munich agreement was signed. And Churchill then said, okay, you had a choice between dishonor and war. You chose dishonor, and you will have the war. So he was right. In our sense, it's not that serious, but you have the choice between democracy and stability. But in the end, we do not have neither democracy in Serbia nor stability. And even in the last European Commission report, Serbia is marked as a potential security threat to EU due to the cooperation in some way with Russia and being an outpost for the Russian hybrid operations in the region, and not only in the region. So what is important? And we have this great march back of Serbia, or to paraphrase again Lenin, half step forward and 3 steps back. And now, when in the Commission report, Serbia finds itself with Turkey and Georgia when we speak about state capture, corruption, etc., freedom of assembly. So it used to be front runner. Albania only reached Serbia's 2015 point of preparation points to the EU this year, and now Serbia is lagging behind. So what is important? What is important is democracy, promoting democracy, supporting democracy, and it's not only in Serbia, globally, to make this link between democracy, freedom, which implies and includes dignity, and genuine prosperity. So it's up to us to make creative, strong arguments against the autocrat populists, etc., and how to stop this autocratic tide, which started some 20 years ago when the third wave of democracy ran out of steam. So there is a need to reinvigorate democracy, and I think it's an important step, potentially important step, is this European EU Democracy Shield, which was announced last week. But the question is how it will be operationalized, how much funds will be put in, and there is also whether it will be and in what way connected to the Center for Democratic Resilience, whether the candidate countries, aspiring countries, would be obliged to cooperate with that center. And I have this experience with democracy promotion. I used to be advisor to Serbian Deputy Prime Minister 20 years ago, who was chief negotiator of the EU. And at the time, everybody complained about how poor is EU information campaign in Serbia and the whole, especially in Serbia. Now it's even worse, with the Russian disinformation campaign, etc. And therefore, I think that we do not need the sterile campaigns like We Grow Together with these billboards, etc. We need some personal approach. And I'm involved also with one of the leading think tanks in Indonesia, Foreign Affairs. They have very good project, Thousand Abrahamic Circles, putting together religious leaders from monotheistic religions, like Jewish, Muslim, and Christian. But they not go to the conference. They spend 3 weeks together, live together for 1 week in each other country. And I experienced the change. So maybe we can do something like that with different social segments here, like farmers, for example. Maybe they can visit their counterparts in some transition countries. I know very well the Polish case. Before joining EU, the most Eurosceptical group was worker farmers, and now you can see. So maybe we can find some creative ways how to put it together, how to put personal touch there, personal experience with opinion leaders, or how they call it now, influencers, who then can transfer their experience to their base. Even better if they're Eurosceptic. Just to present them real situation. And in that way to counter this anti-Western propaganda. And last but not least, also the coalition on democracy is very important on the international levels, in all institutions, we agree with democracy, democratic mechanisms, human rights, etc. And I think that the EU should take a leading role in that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jovanovic. Thank you for giving us an insider's view in your important country, which will play a crucial role for the Balkan, for the future of the Balkan. So very interesting to hear from you. Mr. Mandl, you want to comment first, or shall we have some questions? Maybe we have 5 minutes, because there's less speakers in the next session, so we can take a little bit more time, if you want.
Thank you very much. I've taken duly notes, and we want 2 minutes because we started 5 minutes late and we are 3 minutes behind. I will use one of them. I highly appreciate everything that has been stated. I've taken many notes. I forgot due to time pressure in the beginning, while thanking Jacques Marion for the good cooperation, also thanking UPF, United Peace Federation, for the excellent cooperation for many years. Even during the pandemic, you managed to connect people, and this is what we experienced today. And I mean, the deep dive and also the openness and how outspoken everything was really worth listening and worth also conducting the further steps. So it really makes a difference what we are doing here, and I'm happy if we can take in some questions and remarks from the audience.
Okay, any question? Yes, sir.
There we are. Thank you very much. My name's Keith Best. I'm former British Member of Parliament and also chair of UPF UK. Mr. Moisiu spoke of historic wrongs, and we all know we can never separate history from present time because memories are long and grievances translate through generations. I'd be very interested in what the panel thinks about what benefit there would be in addressing particular grievances, particularly Mr. Moisiu mentioned grievances felt by Serbia, as to how that could ameliorate the situation at the present time and build a greater understanding between nations that need to come together.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Who wants to answer the question? President Moisiu or anyone? I think the question is really to the panel. Okay, President Sidiou, please go ahead.
In Albanian?
We have no...
Unë dëshiroj t'ju falenderoj edhe një herë për pjesëmarrjen në këtë takim. Mendoj me çështje jashtëzakonisht konkrete dhe të dobishme. Unë do të them 2-3 fjalë jo nga periudha e hershme e krizave të mëdha që kanë qenë sidomos nga lufta e dytë botërore, për çka presidenti Moisiu ka përgjigje më të drejtë për drejta. Por them fjalën fazën finale. It is exist.
We don't have translation yet.
You're not? Okay. Fazën finale të pavarësimit të Kosovës. Mbretëria e Bashkuar, si pjesëmarrëse në Aleancën e Përbashkët Perëndimore, ka qenë një nga vendet që në mënyrën më aktive të mundshme ka qenë inkorporuar në proceset e ndihmës për njerëzit e Kosovës në radhë parë, për të shpëtuar shumë jetra të fëmijëve të grave, të qytetarëve civil, dhe si e tillë ka qenë një prej faktorëve tepër të rëndësishëm kurajues për të arritur një paqë në gjendjen që kishim. Unë kam qenë presidenti i vendit në fazën finale të bisedimeve dhe kam udhëhequr delegacionin e Kosovës. Nga këshillat e vazhdueshme që kemi pas kanë qenë edhe këshillat nga misionet tuaja përkatësisht deri tek edhe kryeministri i vendit. Kemi pas vizita tepër të rëndësishme. Qëllimi jon ka qenë vërtet arrihet paqja dhe përpjekja jon edhe të sotshme është në një bashkëpunim të thellë, pavarësisht se tash Mbretëria e Bashkuar nuk është BE, por është esenca, është një nga vendet më të rëndësishme të Europës apo të kontinentit tjetër. Andaj unë dëshiroj të vlerësoj gjithë këtë punë që është bërë në gjithë misionet që ka pas dhe natyrisht ju kujton edhe koha e adresimeve të presidentit të kryeministrit Blair, të Gordon Brown, që kam pas disa herë takime me te, dhe personalitetet tjera të rëndësishme të jetës politike dhe jetës përgjithshme specifike të thoja, sidomos në pjesën e intervenimeve në kontakt.
Thank you. I think maybe one more. Yes, answer, please, Madam Ambassador.
I can add something. I mean, it's although I've been like for 25 years in the foreign service, I'm still the young generation in the region. And I think, I mean, we have been working so much on forgetting the past, and we should not forget, but we should look at, also forward. And for us now, when we see what happened in Ukraine and how much it has changed, how much people are talking about enlargement, we should focus only on that. It's so close this time. I never thought that it would be so close and it would be so real. Wherever you go now, people say, now it's real. And when you hear so many people talking about Montenegro and Albania becoming members within this decade, for my generation and the people of the region, this is like big perspective. And that's why I think all the focus of all the 6 countries of the region should be only that, EU enlargement. Because that, as I mentioned also during my speech, that is to bring peace, security, and prosperity. And it's clear, all our countries, all our nations, they only want that. And that's our future. That's why for us, at this point, it's just look forward. Don't lose energy fighting each other anymore. We have seen that. It brought nothing. We were separate from ex-Yugoslavia, but still we suffered from something else. And look where we are. That's why, if we look forward, if we see what the EU brings, I mean, I've seen it with my country. I'm the generation, it's like in the last 34 years, it was a country like the poorest, and now it's like the prosperity that you see and how fast it's changing. I'm traveling almost every month back home, and it's like every month you see like a new gate at the airport. I mean, it's like the country is developing so fast. You cannot recognize anymore your neighborhood. That's why I think focusing on that, and my country is doing that, and we see the benefits. It's not easy, but that's why looking forward is only the choice that we have. Thanks.
Thank you, Excellency. Thank you very much. I think we have to close now the first session.
Sorry.
Yes. Okay. All right.
Probleme majore di spopole hanno in realtà semplice politica. Nelle non che quattro problemi che ho citato, le servono, e l'ultima è FIA, che ponga del sistema di moderne politiche. E dopo il ne putem la luptă din petrol. Acolo nici acasă nu vezi. De nu de ilegale e bun, e baș mi se arăt. E petrol cu știu spitalian de german. E bun ne implică. Și după ne Kosovo. De Prije este eu. Eu pun dovedoso de referendum baš luptă spre petrol. În fapt, ma se știu iarăși să-și devine elector, nimeni nu timp dus de cată, nu știu din boie tărboi, o băie mele e prăbașcă. E mele e prăbașcă, deci și citarul de semnă. De vădos, e velotor de mei, zbașcu, unul cu știu spre german, de italian, de Pastajno, bez referenduma. Deci tu mă joc eu cu unul, răspund de ghinionere să sunt de realitate. Este permanent tu prezidențiul de chat nou de mas luptă, da. De meeting 2010 de patru parlare întâlnirea așa. Me gusta a mí. Por problemas que somos y muy grandes. De escultores, de agricultura, de cattle viitor, dus de peces. Que vine terminat distrug. De atât de lucru e o decizie. De obiectiv proiect. Oare până nu dișau? Deci, ori părinți politică, ori e bibaș, de statul viitor, și că vorbim de noi, are vinerii. Or, și știe că iar n-a știu zici. Ori doar, avea un terast, doar, că se devine fire forte, politică se europeană la alt. president Jacques door Shalor bijkomt. De Panushoor, gemiddeld politieke, de team politiek te service, als misschien de prijzen permissies.
Thank you, President. Thank you, President Mosiu. Thank you very much. And Mr. Mandl, you want the last word? And then I think we have to close for a short break. Very short, yes.
Thanks for all this historic reference to the 90s, I think, the 1990s. It was not accurate, I think, in the English interpretation, but it was about the 1990s, and it's a very deep dive in history. One last point. Austria has been, or was waiting 10 years for the so-called States Treaty, 1945 to 1955. And the Austrians of that time didn't believe anymore it will ever happen. They lost hope, and they were very desperate about this. And for how long have the Western Balkan states been waiting for enlargement? It's really a responsibility for the European Union. And I make a full stop here. And thank you again for joining. And I'm happy that as well Mr. Pascal de la Parte, my colleague from Portugal, and also Andrzej Kola, my colleague from Czech Republic, are with us today. Andrzej Kola will speak on the next panel as well. Thanks, Jacques, Marion, again for our joint venture here.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, all of our panel. Please give another round of applause to all. Sorry, time is short, so we don't have much time for a break. Let's just have a few minutes, just maybe 4 minutes for a break, just changing the panel. And please stay here. We will start soon so that we can end on time. Okay, we have some constraints on time. Thank you. Please, the next panelist, you can come to the panel.